Hello and welcome back to my FPL channel. I'm FPL Unit and you're here today for deadline decisions ahead of Valentine's Day deadline at 6:30 p.m. UK time. That is ironically at 2:30 a.m. Australian Western time where I am. I will be here for a deadline day stream, so make sure you do join me for that one as well. Without further ado though, happy Valentine's Day to everyone that is watching. Hopefully you're spending it so doing something special with your loved ones if you've got them, or just doing something nice for someone else. And without further ado, make sure you smash a like, smash a subscribe as well. Help me to get to 600. That's hopefully the aim by the end of the week, and I can only do that with your help. So with that being said, let's jump into it. So, we haven't had many press conference updates yet, but we have had the Chelsea one because they play against Brighton on Friday night, and there are some really key points to take out of here. So, they have a number of forward injuries, which makes Nkunku, after all this time, potentially a really good option. You would expect now he's going to get a nice run of starts in the team. If he doesn't, I'm not sure what to say about him anymore, because I just don't know what you'd do if he's if he's not playing. It's probably Cole Palmer as a false nine. It could be good for Cole Palmer, but it's going to be interesting to see how it says. But look, let's just cover what Maresca actually said in his press conference. So Nico will be out until the international break, probably available after that. We knew that it was a muscular problem, but we did not know how important it was because his reaction was quite good. We did not think it was a big injury. Unfortunately, though, he then had a scan a few days ago, and it is an important one. It will be around 6 to 8 weeks, which will be close towards the end of the season. So Nicholas Jackson, if you're still one of those poor people, thankfully I got rid of him a little while ago now. If you're still one of those poor people that still got him, he needs to be moved out of your team this week. Mark Gahey, or whatever, however you say that guy's name, will also be out for a while. He has a muscle problem, a hamstring issue as well, and he'll be out for a little while. How long is a little while? Hamstring injuries, they can be give or take. We'll get into a few more injury updates as well that have come out over the last couple of days that I am going to cover in this video. On the goalkeepers, now this one's really interesting. Thanks, Raahi, for pointing this one out for me. He sent this to me yesterday. Philip Jorgensen's solution was to give Robert Sanchez time to recover mentally and physically. The idea is not to change the goalkeeper game by game. Philip was against West Ham. The FA Cup game was Robert. Our keeper in this moment is Philip. So Philip Jorgensen has now become the Chelsea #1 goalkeeper in the league. That is what that tells me. If you are one of those people who has Sanchez and Fabianski, you really need to be making a goalkeeper transfer as well. So that's definitely something that you probably hadn't factored in, but it's relevant news, and potentially if you're in that situation, you'll probably need to make some sort of decisions there. Now, in terms of other updates, Arsenal injuries, mate, I feel sorry for them. I want Liverpool not to win the league, and realistically, Arsenal were the best chance, but the injuries are killing them. I just don't think they're capable of actually winning the league with the injuries they've got. Havertz is now out for the season. He's their warm weather trip. Maybe his hamstring couldn't survive the heat, but he's gone. He's out for the season. He's going to need surgery, I think, from what I read. He's definitely gone. Martinelli is also looking at 3 to 4 weeks from what we do know. Saka may be back by the start of March. That's a few more weeks, around 29, game week 30. He'll be back, hopefully. But what does this mean? It means that Trossard, Sterling, and Nwaneri all look like getting pretty regular minutes in the near future. Unless they start playing Odegaard false 9. I just can't see it myself. I would imagine that they're probably going to play Sterling on the left, Nwaneri on the right, and Trossard through the middle. It makes Trossard, Nwaneri, maybe even Sterling, viable options. They're all midfield. I can't remember if Sterling's a midfielder or not, but Trossard and Nwaneri definitely are. Trossard is a false 9. The dude does. He's a really enticing option. 6.8 million. I'm telling you, if he does well this weekend, and they do have Leicester, so it is a bit of a punt. I'd rather see a week, see what happens, how they're lining up. But realistically, that is a move that I may potentially make if Bruno continues to stink it up in my team. On to the Bournemouth versus Villa assets now. If you don't have many free transfers, like me, and I obviously took a -4 this week, to bring in a Bournemouth mid over a Villa mid, because of the fact that Bournemouth aren't blanking in game week 29, and I don't really think much of the double. And this is me saying I've obviously got Emery in my team covering the Aston Villa assets. So I had the same with Moyes last week. I was quite happy Didn't really rate the game week in terms of the actual players, but I'm more than happy to have the manager because I think that a manager can do some jobs. So for me, it's definitely a case of that. So for me, I think if you had the decision, if you had 5 transfers, I'd say, take a punt on a Villa asset, 100%. If you've got one free transfer like I did at the start of the week, I'd be going to Bournemouth mid. Or a Bournemouth defender, whichever one it is. I think that's probably the play longer term. They've got Southampton up straight away, which makes you think that they're going to probably match whatever Villa assets do anyway. And in terms of Rodgers, Rashford, Marlon, all them, they've got about 7 attacking players for 4 spots. So the minutes are going to be a bit of a risk. We likely will potentially see some sort of rotation from Emery as well. I just think that for me, based on those and the fact that Villa assets are going to blank in game week 29. If I bring one in, like, for example, if I'd bought one in instead of a Bournemouth mid, I would have wasted a transfer bringing him in. I would have wasted another transfer taking him back out because I'm not going to be using my free hit in game week 29. Now, if you are using a free hit, maybe it is worth a look at the Villa assets. For me, it's just not somewhere I want to go, and I've decided against it. In terms of assistant manager and triple captainship, now, lots of people played the triple captainship last week, and they'll be working out whether it's worth playing the assistant manager this week. I personally think that if you haven't already played the assistant manager chip and you didn't play it last week, you don't play it this week. That's my gut feeling. I just think that they're potentially Crystal Palace later in the season will have a double game week with 2 table bonus games on offer. I think that's better as over 1 double than this week with Emery with the 1 double. That's the way I see it. I don't think slot's an option at all. I think actually the people that probably picked slot last week are probably regretting the decision significantly. I think having 3 Liverpool players is significantly better than having 2 Liverpool players in the manager. The other thing I'll say on that is Arnie Slot is going to be banned. We don't know if he'll be on the touchline for Wolves, but he's 100% going to be missing one of these 2 games against Wolves and Villa. Villa away is a very tricky fixture for Liverpool because Villa have only lost once all season at home, and that was, I think, their very first game of the season that they played at home. I think it was in game week 2, game week 3, around then, against Arsenal, where they lost. Since then, they have not lost at home this season. Just keep that in mind. I would even actually recommend that you transfer Slot out if you had Slot. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a good play. I think it was a mistake to pick him last week. That's just my personal opinion. I think you've got to chase the table bonus. The chip is there for that reason, to entice you to chase the table bonus. That is how you're going to make up rank. For me, that is the way I'm going to do it. And with that Aston Villa, you do that Ipswich fixture at home is the sure kind of banker, and then you almost get like the free hit luck with what Moyes did. And hopefully Villa do take care of Ipswich. But I just can't see any way that doesn't work. If you're after a single game week, Graham Potter plays Brentford at home. That looks really enticing. I think that's the best of the 3 other fixtures with table bonus. Herzl's obviously got Chelsea on the Friday night. And then Silva has obviously got Nottingham Forest. I think that's a Saturday game. So like those fixtures there also scream chances for table bonus. Probably, I don't actually suggest picking one of those 3 over Arnie Slot as well. I just think they'll outscore him. I don't see Arnie Slot winning both games, particularly when the fact he's not going to be on the touchline. Obviously, that doesn't mean you get -3s or you miss points because they're not playing. That is not how the assistant manager chip works, and I think that's something I don't like. I think if your manager gets booked or you get sent off, you should be docked the points exactly how a player is. Hopefully, if they keep the chip next season, that's what they implement, because I think that would make the chip make a lot more sense to me in terms of my line of thinking. Maybe adjust the prices a bit more as well. Maybe the manager's prices can go up and down. I don't know. But if you want to play your triple captain and you didn't play it last week, I would recommend playing it this week. This is the last time you'll be able to play it on Mo Salah for the season over a double game week. Wolves at home and Aston Villa away. I think from memory he got 12 or 13 points against Aston Villa the first time around. He got a goal and assist. Against Wolves, I can't remember what he got, but he definitely didn't blank. It screams another really big monster score this week. It's a monster score this week, particularly for Salah. He is in the form of his life. He's on track to break 400 points. He's 50 points away from actually breaking the all-time record in fantasy for a season. And we're only coming up to game week 25. It's absolutely insane how mad that man has been. Yeah, look, there are other options to play triple captain later in the season if you are an assistant manager. Obviously, Isaac and Haaland potentially could double later in the season. They also look like really good options, or as I said, Foden yesterday as well. Liverpool concerns. Now, thank you, Raahi, for sending this to me as well. Trent obviously got benched, so that was not ideal. I would expect him to start at least one of the next 2 games, so I don't think you'd be moving him. I think it'd be silly to move him. They definitely are a much better team with Trent in terms of an attacking sense. Defensively, I think they're actually probably weaker with Trent in, but I wouldn't be wasting a transfer there. Now, something that is interesting needs to be kept in mind, particularly for when Liverpool or Slot, or whoever holds the pre-news conference, Gakpo was taken off 20 minutes before the end of that Everton game and was spotted limping after the game. Now, we don't know if it's serious. We don't know if it's going to be enough to make him miss, but it is something to keep in mind, particularly with Jota now being fit and available again and Nunes. Potentially, Gakpo may start one of these next 2 games on the bench. It is something to be aware of, particularly if you do own Gakpo. I don't own him, so it's not a problem for me, but it is something I wanted to flag with the masses that potentially do own him. So, onto the best buys and sells. Defenders really quickly. It is number 1, Kirkes, 2, Hodgson. You potentially could swap them depending on your want. Munoz comes in at number 3. I just really like the Crystal Palace run. Luca Dean, number 4. Diarcy, number 5. And Timber is number 6. In terms of the sells, those are the players I would be recommending you get rid of. Pedro Porro, why people still got him. 20% of the comp still have him. Ridiculous. Guardiola's not going to be keeping a clean sheet anytime soon. He might even be rotated out for Pep Roulette in preparation for the Champions League midweek. Martinez obviously done for the season. Hall, if you need to move your assets out so you can play a team in game week 29, he is a sacrificial lamb, depending on how much money you got tied up in him. Mazraoui, Man United can't defend. And Young, unfortunately, he's lost his starting point in the in the defence for Everton, so he also has to move out. In terms of the midfielders, it is the Bournemouth boys, 1, 2, and 3. Semenyo, Kluivert, and Dango in that order, or Itara, however you want to say his name or pronounce it. I prefer saying Dango because that's what it shows up when you click on him. Rodgers comes in at number 4 as the only Aston Villa asset that I think is worth a look. And Buemo's still at number 5. And number 6 is now Trossard. Trossard has come in. Bowen's very unlucky not to make this list. But Trossard, I think, is going to play in that false 9 position. I really like him. 6.8 million. There's a lot to love there. In terms of the sells, Gordon, I think you just get rid of him. There's so many other midfielders, and you just got to free up these slots for these better options. Ahmad, for me, was the one that made way in my team, and I bought in Kluivert instead for him. Diaz, if you've got him, you probably hold him this week because I don't think it's worth wasting 2 transfers to bring in a third Liverpool asset. But I'll be getting rid of him after game week 25. He'll be probably top of the list next week. Iwobi comes in at number 4. Foden, number 5. I feel like Pep Roulette, I don't know. There's a lot of options there. I don't know why he started on the bench last week either. It makes no sense to me. And then Eze, obviously, he is there as well. We just don't know if he's going to be fit. And again, he's another one you probably want to monitor in the press conferences coming out later on today. In terms of the forwards, now we're going to start with the sells. Havertz is number 1 sell now because that news literally came out. Same with Nicholas Jackson. There is about 10% and 10% or close to, about 15% of the comp have one of these 2 forwards in their team. I don't know if anyone's got both, but if you do, that's really unfortunate. They need to be priority sells. You need to get rid of them. There are a lot of other good forwards doing really well. João Pedro, obviously, he needs to be just put in the bin. And Chris Wood does make this list. There are better options coming into better form, and I think that Chris Wood's next 3 fixtures after this week in particular don't look that flash on paper. Now, Gakpo still is the number 1 forward if you haven't got 3 Liverpool players, or if you've got Slot and you should be moving him, then you've got a third Liverpool option. If Gakpo is fit, it is one of them monitors. He's still probably the best forward to buy with that double game week straight in front. Wiss is there. I think he's probably pretty good as well. Mateta, also a very good option. Raul, and then Cunha next week is definitely going to be higher up on the list, but this week it's not a nice fixture against Liverpool. And then Beto, who's been unbelievably good value for 4.9 the last game week, he's worth a look. I mean, Everton are in some good form, and he's probably the only fit forward they've got now. And Dyer's got a question mark next to his name as well after that Merseyside derby. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on as well. In terms of benching ratings this week, this is brand new. I've put this together. This is how I read it this week. In terms of defenders, I'll be starting the Arsenal defence first. Kirkes, Hodgson, Munoz, Aina, then Milinkovic and Robinson. That's obviously a conundrum I've got in my team. I'm playing Milinkovic over Robinson just because I think that Nottingham Forest are more likely to keep a clean sheet than Fulham. Castagna's obviously below Robinson, Guardiola, Hall, Collins, Mikolenko and Williams. That's just how I see it. Obviously, if your name is not on there, just whack a comment in there and I'll tell you who I think you should bench out of whatever. In terms of the midfielders, this is the order I've gone with. Mbeumo, Rogers, Bournemouth mids after those two. Trossard is now massively shot up the rankings because they've got that Leicester fixture, and I think that potentially he's just a really good buy. Bowen obviously is in there as well. Matoma, Bruno Fernandes, then Ahmad, then Son, then Gibbs-White, then Alanga, and then Eze. Ismaila Sarr would be below Eze. Just see, if your team is there, that's essentially the ranking importance I'm giving them. In terms of the forwards, it's Gakpo, Isaac, Watkins if he is fit. He'd actually make the buy forwards, but we just don't know if he's going to be fit. So for that reason, he's not on that list, but he would be if we know that he is fit. At this time of recording this video, we're just not sure. Haaland, Wissa, Mateta, Wood, Beto, Cunha, Raul, Delap, João Pedro, and Ndiaye. I'm really not sure about Ndiaye, but yeah, let me know if you've got any other players that aren't on that list that you want to have answered. Just whack in the comments and I'll address them in the deadline day stream, or I'll respond to you in the comments section. So on my team, this is essentially how we'll be lining up this weekend. The only real decision I am still thinking about is whether to bench Wissa and start Bruno Fernandes. That is likely the only change to the starting lineup and the subs that I'll be doing. I still think Milinkovic is better than Robinson. I'm not sure why, even though Robinson's got 10 assists. I just feel like Nottingham Forest, they're pretty stingy. And the way they defend, I can't see Fulham doing too much against them. That's just my personal opinion. I could very well get this wrong, and Robinson may be on the bench yet again getting another assist, and it could be number 11 of the season. But I am pretty confident. Assistant managers there with Emery. There's a lot of upside. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people probably triple captaining Mo Salah again this week as well, which will be painful in terms of trying to beat it with the assistant manager. But I do have to remember that at some point later in the season, everyone else would have played it, and I'll have the triple captain ready to go. So the points that I'm kind of like versing against this week, potentially if Salah has another monster week, I will have the chance to make that up later in the season. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And then having the table bonus for the assistant manager, I just think is the smart play over the 3 weeks. I will be chasing it on every single week. Ruud van Nistelrooy, early tip, may be the manager I go to next week, depending on how Leicester go against Arsenal and how Brentford travel to West Ham. If Brentford don't travel very well this weekend, 100%, it does look like a Ruud van Nistelrooy move for me next week in terms of my transfer for game week 26. With that being said, I think I'm pretty happy with the team. Let me know in the comments, again, if I've got anything wrong. Again, if you've got any benching decisions, I'm willing to sit there and answer them for you. So let's finish up. Lots of things to cover. Arsenal injuries, Chelsea changes. It's all happening. Game week 25, will it be as high scoring as game week 24? I wouldn't have thought so, but there are a lot of nice fixtures this week. I'm expecting my midfield in particular to score a lot more points than it did last week outside of Salah. I mean, the only one that returned last week outside of Salah was Palmer. So I'm expecting better results there. I won't be benching Chris Wood this week. Ironically, he'll probably get 2 points. And then the next week, he'll probably score and return and he'll be back on the bench. It is just one of those things. Remember, today is the deadline day. It's 6:30 p.m. UK time. That is the shut-off. Brighton versus Chelsea is at 8 o'clock. Make sure you don't sleep in or snooze on your dates tonight with your missus. Make sure you get those transfers in and make sure you lock your team in, because you don't want to be sitting there carrying David Moyes into Crystal Palace. Let's put that on the record. He was amazing in game week 24, but he needs to be moved for game week 25. I'll see you later for a deadline day stream. Thanks for watching. And before you go, make sure you like and press that subscribe button somewhere around there. That's been the D Unit.